Hi everybody, Tim Hughes here. I'm really excited to be introducing this digital download special that we're running rather than on the Fridays at 2 o'clock, but we're running it on Thursdays or Thursday today, just to make sure that we can get our special guest in, which is Simon Kemp. So welcome to Simon.
The key stat that I would focus on in there is that regardless of what social platform you're looking at, even the very biggest of the platforms out there, you're going to be able to reach more than 98% of the users of any given social platform on at least one other platform. So this idea that you can reach unique users on a particular platform, there's going to be one or two of them, but in reality, you can reach social media users across multiple platforms on a regular basis. And that then leads you to much more interesting questions. So let me step back a bit even from that chart. 93 to 95%, depending on which set of stats you look at, of internet users already use social media if they're in the relevant age groups. So obviously most social platforms restrict use to people aged 13 and above. 93 to 95% of internet users already use social media. 75% of all eligible age groups, regardless of whether they're even on the internet, use social media. So it's clear that social media as a base is huge, right? But from that perspective, your questions then are, how do I use social media to really better reach my audiences and deliver value? Knowing that you can reach social media users across multiple different platforms, I think gives you a bit more freedom. You don't need to panic too much about whether you should be on platform X, Y, or Z. You can say, with one or two of these big platforms, I'm going to reach the vast majority of these users. And then I can make choices. If I still have some bandwidth and budget left, I can then select other platforms based on creative opportunities, based on particular formats that they allow me to do, based on usage contexts even. So when does my audience use this particular platform? What are they using it for? What's the right kind of thing that I could deliver to them, and how is that different to what I would deliver on another platform? So you brought out LinkedIn there. Let's suppose that a lot of the people that are tuning into today's conversation are B2B marketers, because it's one of those things that doesn't often get enough attention in the marketing conversation. Just because you're trying to reach a B2B audience doesn't mean you need to only focus on LinkedIn, although it is obviously a great place to start. But if you think about it, Twitter is also a great place to come in and reach those kinds of people. I think you also want to be looking at Facebook as an interesting platform, much as it feels like it's a place where you can go and chat to friends and family. Just because of its sheer size, Facebook is always a great opportunity for you to do B2B marketing activities as well. So don't let stereotypes, I think, get in the way of your planning. Use these data points to say, my audience is here. They're all over the place doing lots of different things. When is the best time and place to reach them with the message I care about? And how can I make that as impactful as possible?
Excellent. I have a follow-on question to that one in terms of how businesses, and it's not specific to any data points in the report, but I think you raise a really valid point there about business users, consumers of business products are on these other platforms, yet companies themselves don't feel comfortable marketing to them on those other platforms because they don't feel it's in the right business environment.
So Alex, that's a great question. I think we often put ourselves into buckets and pigeonholes as marketers, like, so this specific thing is relevant for this job and that's all we can use it for. And I think we forget that when we're talking to B2B audiences, for the vast majority of the time, they're human beings. Even people in procurement are human beings, apparently, which is sometimes a fascinating insight. No disrespect to procurement people whatsoever. But I think, this idea that you need to only use a business channel to deliver a business message, there's a certain logic to that, but at the same time, you're missing opportunities to deliver different kinds of messages to different people. I think especially when you start looking at platforms like Twitter, which is a news platform above all else, when you look at the reasons why people use the Twitter platform, the vast majority of users come in and say, that's the primary reason I go to Twitter, is to get news. So, if you're delivering news-related information, if you want to deliver facts and similar, then Twitter's a fantastic place to do that. And it's also a place where you can have very different kinds of conversations to the ones that you would have on LinkedIn. They're not always comfortable conversations. Admittedly, Twitter can be quite a noisy environment, but nonetheless, as a marketer, provided you understand what you're setting yourself up for, then it is a great place to have certain kinds of conversations. And likewise, if you wanted to do business activities on TikTok, if you're reaching younger users who may be influential in a certain kind of decision-making process, then absolutely it's worth considering. So yeah, I think the key bit is to not get distracted by platforms and technology. I think as marketers and as journalists, a lot of the time, we tend to get distracted by numbers and technologies and names and whatever else. But if we forget all of that completely and we go back to marketing basics, who are the people that I care about and want to engage? What are the things I want to influence in terms of their thinking and their behavior? And what do I need to share with them in order to change those thoughts and behaviors? Then all of a sudden you've already narrowed it down to these are the times and places when my messaging is going to be appropriate, and therefore these platforms are good places to deliver that messaging to this audience in those times and places. That's a much better way of doing it rather than going, what's the hottest social media platform out there? What's the next big thing? Which in all honesty is going to lead you to all sorts of jumping around and getting distracted and exhausting yourself a lot of the time.
Yeah, I'll go next. So social is clearly a huge and growing part of our lives, providing a significant opportunity to connect and learn from others easily. From a B2B perspective, when we think about some of the things that have been discussed and the importance I know the report sort of focuses on the paid media side of things and the kind of the volume and how big social is, but when we think about it from a B2B perspective, and specifically social being a place to bring customers, prospects, partners, employees together, why do you think companies don't pay enough attention to this from a cultural perspective to really put social at the heart?
A great question again. Thank you for that one, Alex. So just to clarify one thing, when you said we focus on the paid media bit, when it comes to the social media numbers, we publish ad audience numbers simply because they're the ones that we can collect. I would publish a greater variety of numbers if the platforms made it easier, but they don't, frustratingly. So that's the reason I use the ad audience numbers, is they're very accessible for us and they change regularly, so that's a good story to tell. But you're right, I think that there's much more to the social media opportunity than just the paid interruptions, as I like to call them. And I don't necessarily mean that negatively, but it is a little bit like somebody's going to come in and poke you when you're having a conversation with somebody else and say, I want to tell you about my product. And it's like, oh, that's not the best way of engaging somebody. If you had the opportunity to sit down and say, we share the following things in common, we've got the shared interests, let's have a chat, that's magic. That's where you start to build bonds and you start to be able to learn from and influence others. And I think it's that bit that a lot of businesses see social media still as very transactional. So your question is almost the answer, weirdly. It's like, because so many people and so many reports, including mine, focus on that commercial side of things, they miss the softer side of things. They miss the much more qualitative value of these platforms. Because it's not being reported at a boardroom level, finance don't see it, procurement don't see it, whoever else don't see it. And from that perspective, then it doesn't get the necessary attention in order to bring it to the top table, which is crazy, because I think when you look at things like employer branding, just the value of being able to hire the right employees and the right partners and what that then brings to your business, almost all of that is organic. You obviously can invest in paid media when you're doing those activities, but realistically, if you think about your LinkedIn feed today, the companies that you build the strongest favorable opinions of are the ones that are consistently sharing content that adds value to your daily activities. And I think it's that bit is there is not nearly enough attention being given to that at this time. And we need to focus on it more. I don't know quite how we do that better, but I'm going to echo your question back to you, Alex.
Yeah.
Have you got any tips for folks based on that? I know that's important to you, so experiences would be great.
Well, it's one of the biggest challenges that I have is convincing organizations to invest the time that they need to in their people to develop their personal brands, to create content that will drive greater interaction from an individual perspective, but then also helps the business and the organization. Because depending on who you talk to, whether it's the marketing leader or the sales leader or the board, they've got their own idea about that transaction, as it were.
Yeah, that. I think a big part of this comes down to metrics and measurement as well. So the things that, for whatever reason, the numbers that we report back when we talk about social media performance in marketing are probably not the ones that deliver the greatest value to the bottom line. We're guilty of that as an industry, and it was our own fault. We went with the easiest tracked things, and then they became the default metrics, and it was daft. I personally fight with this every day, and I'll be totally honest with you. So, especially the folks on this call, I'm sure have been subject to my incessant posting of charts on LinkedIn. You've seen the kinds of stuff that I share. And over the past, I suppose, couple of weeks, I've been trying a few different things, and I get frustrated when the reach of those posts is not what I want it to be, when I don't get the same number of likes. And I'm completely, I have to physically force myself to go into the things and look through the numbers. What's the quality of conversation? What's the value of new kinds of engagement that I'm getting from this? And does that have value? The irony is that a post might get a very small number of views compared to what I would like it to deliver. It may get very few likes, but I may get one person that engages with it who becomes a business lead, who becomes a new partner, and whatever else. And that must be where I focus. And yet, as with everybody else in this industry, I get distracted by the headline metrics. I want the instant gratification of bigger numbers. And we're doing ourselves a disservice if we stop paying attention to them and know what matters and measure only that. We'll not only be a lot more comfortable and less FOMO, to Lenwood's point earlier, but we'll also have a little bit more sort of focus on adding value, and then we'll know that the time we invest is worth it.